At 11:03 last night, the unthinkable happened inside the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. Sources confirm that Melania Trump refused to intervene as Ivanka Trump faced immediate legal detention, sparking a national-level crisis within the Trump family and legal apparatus. According to multiple insiders, federal marshals were dispatched within minutes after the judge's directive, creating a scene that had never been witnessed in modern American political history. This is not speculation. This is not a rumor. This is the reality unfolding behind closed doors, where a family once considered untouchable now faces legal chaos and public scrutiny simultaneously. Ivanka Trump, longtime advisor and senior political operative in her father's orbit, was confronted with federal charges linked to prior financial investigations, and according to sources, the court issued an immediate hold, no bail, no delays. Inside the Trump residence and Mar-a-Lago, the fallout was instant and severe. Melania Trump's refusal to act, insiders say, sent shockwaves through advisors, allies, and donors alike. Those who had assumed unwavering family loyalty now realized that even the inner circle could fracture under pressure. Longtime aides described a scene of panic, phones ringing off the hook, legal teams scrambling to coordinate emergency filings, and consultants debating the political implications of a family member now in custody. Meanwhile, the federal marshals arrived at Ivanka's location with precision and authority. Sources emphasize that this was not a symbolic gesture. Every action was procedural, documented, and designed to ensure compliance with the judge's orders. Within hours, the news had spread across political and media networks, triggering immediate questions about Trump family loyalty, legal exposure, and potential fallout for the 2026 political landscape. By midnight, insiders confirm the Trump family dynamic had shifted permanently. What was once assumed untouchable was now vulnerable. And the actions of Melania Trump, refusing to intervene, had set in motion a cascade of events that could define not just Ivanka's future, but the Trump political empire itself. By early morning, the situation escalated into what insiders are calling a family and political crisis of unprecedented magnitude. Sources confirm that federal marshals, acting under the judge's orders, secured Ivanka Trump without incident, but the optics were disastrous for the Trump brand. Advisors described a scene of disbelief. Never before had a senior member of the Trump family been forcibly detained, while another family member, Melania, refused to intervene. Inside Mar-a-Lago, staff and legal teams were in full emergency mode. Phones were ringing constantly. Attorneys coordinated last-minute motions, and political operatives scrambled to assess the implications. Sources report that loyalty within the inner circle fractured immediately. Some aides quietly began distancing themselves, fearing that defending Ivanka could expose them to legal or political risk. Meanwhile, outside observers noted the growing tension in public statements, social media posts, and leaks. The Trump family was no longer a monolith, and the cracks were visible to everyone. The judge's decision to call federal marshals sent a shockwave through Washington. Sources confirm that senators, party leaders, and major donors were briefed in real time. Republican operatives, who had long relied on the perception of the family's cohesion, now confronted a reality where even a figure like Melania Trump could act independently. Donors reportedly expressed concern that continued support for the Trump political network could now carry personal liability or reputational damage. Inside the court, federal marshals executed their duties with precision and discipline, ensuring that all legal protocols were followed while Ivanka remained in custody. According to sources, this was not just about one individual. It was a statement of authority, legal compliance, and the limits of political protection. Analysts describe this moment as a turning point, where the interplay between family loyalty, legal exposure, and political survival began to collide in real time. By mid-morning, Washington insiders confirmed the Trump political and personal apparatus had entered a period of chaos. And what happens next could reshape the Trump family's influence, the Republican Party, and the 2026 election landscape. By late morning, Donald Trump's reaction became the story itself. Sources inside his legal team describe a scene of panic and fury. Trump was furious that Melania had refused to act and that Ivanka had been detained without warning. Advisors say he spent hours on calls, demanding explanations, strategizing defenses, and threatening anyone who he believed had failed him. But as insiders confirm, this was no ordinary crisis. The federal marshals had acted with full legal authority, and the judge's order was clear, leaving Trump virtually powerless to intervene. Meanwhile, the media storm erupted. Every major network, online outlet, and social platform reported the unfolding events in real time, highlighting the unprecedented spectacle. A senior Trump family member detained under federal orders, while another family member, Melania, declined to help. Social media was flooded with speculation, outrage, and political analysis, and the story quickly trended nationally. Analysts warn that the optics alone could damage Trump's credibility, influence, and political leverage in ways previously unseen. Inside the Trump legal headquarters, sources say lawyers scrambled to file emergency motions to challenge the detention, but every step was met with procedural obstacles and judicial scrutiny. Ivanka's detention, insiders confirm, was linked to ongoing investigations into financial, business, and political dealings, making the legal strategy highly complex and fraught with risk. Advisors privately acknowledged that even a partial victory in court could take weeks to achieve, during which the damage to public perception and political capital would continue to mount. Sources further confirm that Trump's allies were divided. Some advocated immediate public action and rallies, while others urged caution, warning that any impulsive response could worsen legal exposure and alienate key Republican donors. The tension between family loyalty, political survival, and legal reality was now fully exposed. By midday, Washington insiders report a sobering truth. Trump faced a crisis that no amount of media spin or social media outrage could fully contain, and the next 48 hours would determine whether the Trump political machine could survive this unprecedented family and legal meltdown. By late afternoon, the fallout from Ivanka's detention and Melania's refusal began rippling through the Republican Party and Trump's broader network of allies. Sources inside Washington confirm that senators, party operatives, and top donors were contacted urgently to assess the political damage. The scenario was unprecedented. A sitting president's daughter was detained under federal orders, while another family member declined to intervene, casting doubt on the cohesion, loyalty, and strategic command of the Trump family. Inside Mar-a-Lago, sources report that advisors were scrambling to maintain order. Emergency meetings were called to coordinate statements, manage media appearances, and strategize legal filings. Multiple insiders confirmed that trust within the inner circle eroded almost immediately, with some aides quietly signaling their intention to step back, fearing association with Ivanka's legal exposure could end their careers or public credibility. The political implications were swift and severe. According to sources familiar with Republican donor activity, major contributors expressed alarm, calling in for briefings to understand the potential fallout. Donors, previously loyal to the Trump apparatus, reportedly feared that continued financial support could now be politically toxic. Analysts note that this could have an immediate chilling effect on fundraising efforts for both Trump-aligned campaigns and the broader Republican agenda. Meanwhile, legal teams confirmed that federal marshals were actively enforcing the judge's directives with precision, leaving no room for negotiation or delay. Every step of Ivanka's detention was documented and reported, creating a public record that intensified scrutiny on Trump's responses and family loyalty. Sources suggest that the courts were prepared to escalate further if compliance was not immediate, demonstrating that legal authority had decisively taken control of the situation. By evening, insiders reported a sobering reality. Trump's influence, both within his family and the Republican Party, had suffered a significant blow. The legal, political, and public pressure created a situation where the next 24 to 48 hours could determine the trajectory of the Trump political empire and the loyalty of those closest to him. By the following morning, the story had exploded across every major media outlet, dominating cable news, social media, and online platforms. Analysts confirmed that Ivanka Trump's detention, combined with Melania's refusal to intervene, had created a national spectacle of family discord and political vulnerability. Television anchors described it as a crisis within a crisis, while political commentators debated whether this moment represented the beginning of a collapse for the Trump political machine. Inside Trump's legal team, sources report high-stakes meetings that stretched into the early hours. Attorneys pored over filings, coordinated emergency motions, and explored every possible legal maneuver to challenge the judge's orders and secure Ivanka's release. However, insiders stressed that these efforts were complicated by the judge's strict enforcement of the original directives, leaving Trump with limited options and mounting pressure. The public reaction intensified the crisis. Social media erupted with hashtags tracking Ivanka's detention, while memes, video clips, and commentary spread rapidly across the digital landscape. Sources confirmed that Trump's aides were monitoring the situation closely, realizing that public perception could damage not just the family, but the broader GOP brand and upcoming election prospects. Republican leaders and donors, according to insiders, began holding emergency consultations, questioning their continued support. Those who had previously defended the Trump family privately admitted that the optics of a daughter detained while the spouse refused intervention was politically toxic. Donors worried that association could threaten reputations, campaigns, and influence, forcing them to consider a temporary distancing from Trump's inner circle. By midday, reports confirmed that federal marshals remained vigilant, documenting compliance and ensuring court orders were enforced without exception. Analysts warn that the combination of legal authority, family fractures, and media scrutiny created a scenario where Trump's next move could either mitigate the crisis or accelerate his political and personal vulnerabilities exponentially. By late afternoon, Donald Trump's advisors reported that tension inside Mar-a-Lago reached unprecedented levels. Sources confirm that Trump alternated between frantic phone calls to allies, angry demands at staff, and strategic consultations with attorneys, trying to find any loophole to challenge the federal marshal's authority. The reality was becoming stark. Legal orders were being enforced, and no amount of social media outrage or political posturing could reverse them immediately. Inside the estate, aides described a chaotic scene. Staff were constantly on alert, coordinating with lawyers and managing media inquiries. Security teams reinforced perimeters, but sources emphasized that the real threat was not physical. It was the rapid erosion of the family's perceived control and political image. Every passing hour magnified the optics: Ivanka detained, Melania silent, Trump increasingly isolated. Political analysts inside Washington confirmed that the story was creating a ripple effect across the Republican Party, forcing senators and key donors to reconsider alliances. Meanwhile, legal filings continued to pile up. Sources familiar with the process confirmed that emergency motions were repeatedly rejected by the court, citing full compliance with legal procedures and public safety concerns. Advisors privately admitted that these setbacks were damaging not just Ivanka's legal position, but Trump's credibility and influence as a political leader. Every motion that failed reinforced the narrative that even the president's inner circle was subject to the rule of law. Republican donors, insiders report, were quietly pulling back. Several major contributors requested private briefings, expressing concern that continued financial support could carry legal or reputational risk. Analysts describe this as a critical turning point, where the combination of legal enforcement, media attention, and donor hesitation began to threaten the very foundation of Trump's political operations. By evening, sources confirm a sobering reality. Trump's legal, political, and family apparatus was under siege from all directions, and the decisions made over the next 24 hours could determine the survival of his influence and legacy in the months ahead. By early morning, Washington insiders confirmed that news of Ivanka's detention had reached every corner of Capitol Hill, sparking a flurry of private calls, emergency meetings, and strategic discussions. Republican senators reportedly gathered to assess the political fallout, with several quietly acknowledging that Trump's position was weakening rapidly. According to sources, some senators even questioned whether they could continue to publicly support him without risking their own re-election prospects. Meanwhile, media coverage intensified. Television anchors framed the story as a historic crisis, noting that a president's family being targeted under federal court orders was unprecedented in modern U.S. history. Social media amplified every detail: Ivanka's detention, Melania's refusal, and Trump's increasingly desperate attempts to respond. Analysts warned that the viral nature of the coverage was damaging Trump's base perception, creating doubt even among loyal supporters. Inside Mar-a-Lago, Trump's legal team confirmed that every strategy to delay or counteract the Marshals' enforcement was being systematically blocked by the court. Sources say advisors were divided, some urging public rallies to rally supporters, others warning that visible action could invite further legal consequences. The tension between personal loyalty and legal reality was becoming impossible to navigate. By midday, insiders report that the donor network was showing signs of fracture. Major contributors, worried about political optics and legal exposure, began withholding funds or demanding reassurances. Analysts describe this moment as a potential turning point. Trump's ability to mobilize resources and maintain political momentum could be significantly curtailed if the donor class lost confidence. The cumulative effect was undeniable. Trump was isolated, under legal siege, and facing public scrutiny on a scale never seen before. And according to multiple sources, the next 48 hours would be decisive in determining whether he could maintain any semblance of control over his family, his legal battles, and his political influence. By late afternoon, federal marshals continued their precise enforcement of the judge's orders, moving systematically through Mar-a-Lago. Sources confirmed that all areas were being secured, assets documented, and personnel interviewed. Trump's aides described the atmosphere as tense and surreal, with the president visibly frustrated that legal authority had completely overridden personal influence. Public reaction was immediate and explosive. Social media exploded with video clips of marshals in action, commentary from political analysts, and heated debates among Trump supporters. According to multiple insiders, this digital amplification forced Trump's team to react constantly, issuing statements, attempting to control narratives, and coordinating legal filings, all while under intense scrutiny. Within the Republican Party, senior strategists began calculating the potential political damage in swing states. Sources reveal that concerns about Ivanka's detention and Melania's refusal had created a ripple effect, forcing party operatives to reevaluate upcoming campaign strategies. Analysts warn that this moment could reshape internal party dynamics for months to come. Legal advisors confirm that Trump's attempts to challenge the court's authority were being systematically denied. Each rejected filing reinforced the narrative that the president's legal power had limits and that the rule of law was fully asserting itself. Advisors admit that Trump's growing frustration was paired with increasingly erratic decision-making, further complicating the family and political dynamics. By evening, sources indicate that Trump's inner circle was divided, with some pushing for aggressive media counterattacks, while others urged legal restraint. The message from every corner of Washington was clear. Trump was cornered, with limited options, and the next day could determine the trajectory of his political and personal survival. By early evening, the national political landscape had shifted dramatically. Washington insiders report that lawmakers, donors, and party strategists were all reassessing their positions in light of Ivanka's detention and the ongoing Mar-a-Lago lockdown. Senior GOP officials, according to sources, expressed growing concern that Trump's actions could alienate swing voters and jeopardize key Senate and House races. Meanwhile, Trump's media strategy intensified. Advisors confirmed that he personally dictated social media posts, calls to loyal supporters, and attempts to pressure allies. But each effort faced pushback, either from legal constraints or lack of political support. Sources note that the combination of legal enforcement, family division, and public scrutiny created an environment where traditional methods of political influence were largely ineffective. Inside Mar-a-Lago, Trump's staff reported heightened tension, with security, advisors, and legal teams all operating under extreme pressure. Sources say that Trump's frustration was growing, particularly as Melania continued to refuse intervention and Ivanka remained in custody, reinforcing the perception of family disunity. Analysts warn that this split could have long-lasting repercussions for both Trump's political influence and his personal legacy. Donor networks reportedly began pulling back support, quietly signaling that continued association with Trump could carry legal or reputational risks. According to insiders, this represented a critical erosion of political capital, limiting his ability to fund legal defenses or mobilize campaigns effectively. By nightfall, multiple sources confirm a stark reality. Trump's power was being challenged on every front: legal, familial, and political. The unprecedented combination of federal enforcement, public scrutiny, and internal dissent had created a situation where the next 24 hours could decide the survival of his influence, resources, and political future. By midnight, sources inside Mar-a-Lago report complete lockdown protocols in effect, enforced by federal marshals who maintained constant surveillance, asset control, and procedural documentation. Trump's legal team continued frantic filings, but sources stress that the courts were showing no signs of leniency. Every attempt to intervene had been blocked, reinforcing the authority of the judicial system. Public attention had reached unprecedented levels, with national news networks running continuous coverage and social media amplifying every development. According to multiple insiders, the public spectacle was damaging Trump's credibility, with experts warning that loyal supporters were beginning to question his ability to lead and protect his family. Inside the Trump circle, advisors described an atmosphere of desperation and strategic recalibration. Some proposed aggressive media counterattacks. Others recommended patience, emphasizing that any misstep could trigger further legal consequences. Donor confidence reportedly continued to waver, signaling a potentially historic decline in financial support for Trump-aligned campaigns and operations. Legal sources confirm that federal marshals' enforcement was methodical and relentless, with every asset secured and documented. Analysts warn that this level of judicial control over a president's personal property is unprecedented, creating a historic benchmark for accountability and rule of law. By the end of the night, insiders reported a sobering reality. Trump was fully cornered, his family divided, and his political and legal influence facing unprecedented challenges. Sources say the next 48 hours would likely define not only the future of his political ambitions, but also the legacy of the Trump family in American history. The nation watched as a powerful figure faced consequences that even his closest allies could no longer prevent.